The following day, Kemkia decided to pay his godfather, Wiba's father, a visit. Kemkia also had the intention of spending the night at the old man's because he always had good stories to tell. As soon as his father had approved of the idea, he first went to Wiba's house to borrow a radio receiver. Wiba had just returned from the farm and was putting a few things in order. When Kemkia knocked the door, he shook with fright and welcomed him. A raffia fiber bag stood between his legs. The presence of Kemkia made him more nervous. He soon carried the bag to the bedroom. The guest wondered what should have been the contents of his host's bag and then demanded to use his radio receiver for the next 3 weeks or so, since he had written the GC exams and would be looking forward to the release of the results. Wiba said it was okay. Then he entered the bedroom and brought the small black receiver as well as a packet of cigarettes. He told Kemkia that as far as he knew, he would pass those exams because he never joked with bookwork. He then took a stick of cigarette and lit it. He was about to put down the packet when Kemkia boldly stretched his right hand and demanded to have a stick. Wiba peered intently at him, sighed and said, "I don't have enough cigarettes to waste some." But Kemkia insisted, saying that he was used to it. "I used to smoke with my friend when we were preparing to write exams. I don't do it often, only when it is cold," he added. "But it is not cold now," Wiba argued. After a while of hesitation, Wiba allowed him have a stick. He was waiting to see how Kemkia would inhale and send out smoke. He would then be able to judge whether he was dealing with a novice or not. But he was deeply shocked to see Kemkia send out smoke through his nostrils and mouth simultaneously. "Like father, like son," he said after gaping at Kemkia for a few moments. At this point, there were footsteps outside. In less than no time, Kemkia threw the stick down and smashed it. The footsteps turned out to be those of Nyang. He stepped in breathing hard and did not have time for greetings. His eyes were red and he looked weary. He told Wiba that he had not adored for the past 1 week and that he hoped there were some holy leaves for him. At the mention of leaves, Wiba became a bit nervous again and appeared to hush his guest. Kemkia then understood it was marijuana they were referring to, for villagers called it that way. He soon greeted them and left. A few paces away, he heard Wiba asking Nyang to first bring the money of the previous supply, and the client was saying that money was not the problem. Kemkia shook his head and made for his godfather's compound. He arrived there when the old man was basking in the sun in front of the house. He was holding a broom that probably served to drive fowls from entering the house. His eyes were fixed on a chick which was feeding beside him. "Arosinyata," Kemkia greeted. "Ah, took off hair. Welcome," said the old man. "I have decided to come and spend the night with you," announced Kemkia. "Good idea, good idea. I am very happy you have my concern. My younger brother's son used to visit me regularly, but ever since he went to college, I have never seen him again. He is now feeling too big. Take a chair from the house. Let's sit outside. Kemke rushed to the house and brought a chair. He was happy he would now start acquiring the knowledge he had come for. How are studies? Asked the old man when Kemke sat down. I have been doing my best, replied Kemke. You have to, so that Tukov can become a proud and happy man when you finish and probably have a job. He was speaking and looking at the chick that was still feeding by him. Suddenly, it raised its tail and sent out black excrement. He raised the broom slowly and landed a heavy blow on its back. The young fowl ran into the nearby coffee farm, cackling, and the other fowls joined in alarm. Do you see Giber, the first son of Binkar? Ta asked. His voice was almost drowned by the cackles. No, he is no more at Kimbo. He left 3 years ago. He is now in the University of Yaoundé. This kola nut tree, said the old man, pointing at a tall kola nut tree at the entrance into the coffee farm, was planted 1 week after Giber was born. I went to Binkar's compound then to greet his wife and child, and he gave me the kola nut seedling to come and plant. So Giber and the kola nut tree are of the same age group. Kemke looked at the tall tree and smiled. As for his younger brother, continued the old man, he has long been forsaken. He has grown wilder than his father can bear, and he no longer wants to see him. What is the problem with him? Asked Kemke. Can you imagine that he stole Singe's kola nuts, and when Singe went to attack him, he confirmed having stolen them, and even said that but for Singe's toothless mouth, he would have given him some to chew? It brought untold anger to everybody here. In fact, you young people of today are no longer selective in whatever thing you do. Before you arrived here, I was watching a chick. It had seen a black ant carrying an insect, all of which could serve as food for the young fowl. It decided to peck the ant so that it left hold of its prey, and it then fed on the ant's foot and left, while the ant went the opposite way. Even fowls do select maize grains while feeding. Nowadays, young people want to eat what they are not supposed to eat. They want to say, hear, and see what they are not supposed to have access to. If you were keen, you would have noticed that instead of old people like me dying, the death rate amongst the youth is very high. Within the last 2 years, I have buried 2 grandchildren. Singe's granddaughter is lying in a coma at Shison because she aborted a set of twins. This is because they reap where they did not sow. The most disappointing of all is that crimes that tradition forbids are frequently committed. The old man stopped and transferred the broom to the left hand. With the other, he wiped the whitish matter that had started appearing at the corners of his mouth on account of much talking. Kemke looked at him in utter admiration. And what are the crimes that tradition forbids? He asked. It is not proper for you to harvest honey from another's beehive, said the old man. Neither is it proper for you to remove an animal from somebody else's trap. The stealing of eggs and palm wine are also forbidden. At the end, the culprit is attacked by a disease characterized by a swollen belly, whose cure is confession, after which death follows on the spot. Kemke sat looking at him with surprise, and the radio receiver he was holding fell off. He picked it up and turned it on. The old man sat and was listening keenly. After a moment of silence, he asked, "Is the man speaking over that thing doing so at the same time where he is?" Kemke smiled broadly. "Yes, sir," he said. "It is just like two people discussing over a wall." The old man sat tapping his foot on the ground and smiling. His eyes were fixed on the top of the kola-nut tree he had earlier pointed out as Gilbert's age-mate, where a kingfisher had just perched and was singing a pleasant song. After a moment, he laughed faintly. "You see," he said, "while the white man uses his magic to make things like this one, which can help his fellow beings, the black man uses his to harm others. Somebody would transform into an owl and pass over your house in the night to go and harm another somewhere. I usually believe that God made the white man with his bright color, and Satan in imitation produced the black man in his own image. Even in calendars, you see pictures of Jesus and other holy people brightly colored, but that of Satan is usually black, like you and I." Kemke looked at the old man's gray hair, and what came to his mind was a saying his history teacher once gave them. "An old man's death can be likened to the burning of a library."